So imagine for just a second that you are standing right in the middle of the Vastiri Desert.
Oh, yeah, just an absolutely brutal environment.
Right. The sun is absolute, the sand is just blinding, and cresting over the dunes toward you is this, like, glittering, massive caravan.
Covered in gold and
Yeah,
silks, right? Which makes zero sense out there.
exactly. It completely defies the absolute desolation of the environment. But as it gets closer, the illusion shatters.
Because of how it's actually moving.
Yeah. You realize this opulent mobile fortress isn't being pulled by beasts of burden. It is powered entirely by human slaves.
It's just so dark.
And it gets worse. The very sand beneath its wheels, like the sand you are currently standing on in this scenario, is essentially a massive graveyard. It's hiding the bones of generations of discarded infants.
Yeah, it immediately strips away any of the, glamour of survival in this environment. It forces you to confront the actual, literal, mechanical cost of that survival.
Right, the human cost.
Exactly. Because when a society optimizes itself purely for endurance, morality often becomes like the very first casualty.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that tension is really the core of our mission on this deep dive today.
For sure.
We are exploring this massive, intricate lore breakdown from Kitten Cat Noodle's YouTube channel, and we're focusing specifically on the socio-political nightmare of the Vastiri Desert in Path of Exile 2.
Which is just a fascinating, messed up landscape.
Truly. We are dealing with two fiercely opposed factions locked in this existential war. You've got the tradition-bound Maraketh and the Faridun, which is this shadow society composed entirely of outcasts.
So to really grasp the mechanics of this conflict, we need to look at the Ardura Akara.
Right, the ones with the golden caravan.
Exactly. They're the ones piloting that glittering caravan, and they're currently led by Sikima Asala.
She's relatively young, right?
She is, yeah. But Asala represents the absolute apex of Maraketh meritocracy. In their culture, leadership isn't inherited at all. It is ruthlessly calculated.
Basically a math problem.
Basically. The title of Sekima goes to the most capable warrior because, well, in an environment this hostile, carrying dead weight is a mathematical impossibility.
But I mean, their definition of dead weight is terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
But like on paper, the Maraketh frame themselves as the good guys. The stoic defenders of Rayclast, right? They're honor-bound to hold back the corruption of the beast.
That's their PR spin anyway.
Right. But then you look at how their society actually functions. They claim those slaves pulling the caravan are prisoners working off capital offenses.
Like they avoided execution.
Exactly. But working humans to death under the Vastiri sun to transport luxury goods isn't really a justice system.
No, not at all.
I mean, is working prisoners to death in a desert really the moral alternative to executing them? It's basically an engineered labor pipeline designed to maintain an aesthetic of supreme dominance.
What's fascinating here is how it functions very much like an algorithm, one that has been programmed to optimize a single variable.
Which is combat efficiency.
Exactly. Combat efficiency at the expense of literally everything else. The Maraketh have systematically pruned any societal code that doesn't directly contribute to their physical strength.
So no room for weakness?
None. Empathy, leniency, grief, these are treated as inefficiencies. And when a culture adopts hyperpragmatism to that extreme, the society essentially develops an autoimmune disorder.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right, it just begins attacking its own vulnerable component.
And nothing illustrates that autoimmune disorder better than their treatment of their own children.
It's so brutal.
It really is. If a Maraketh infant is deemed unfit due to a physical disability, a disfigurement, or honestly simply because they are an extra mouth, the Akara cannot afford to feed.
There's no social safety net.
Zero. They just abandon the infant in the desert. They literally let the extreme environment act as a biological filter.
The sociological implications of that practice are just profound. They're treating human life as a volatile asset, right?
Yeah.
To be liquidated the moment its projected yield drops below a certain threshold.
It's just entirely transactional.
Yeah, but here's the thing. A society cannot simply delete its unwanted elements without consequence. The desert is a closed ecosystem.
Right. This biological surplus doesn't just vanish into the sand.
No, it doesn't.
The infants that somehow managed to survive the exposure eventually coalesced. They adapted, they grew, and they formed the Faridun.
The outcasts.
Exactly. A scavenger society operating on the fringes, essentially processing the human waste of the Maraketh.
It's wild to think about.
Their entire cultural foundation is built on scouring the dunes to rescue the newly abandoned babies and raising them outside the rigid structures of the Ikaras.
They are the living, breathing manifestation of the Maraketh's societal shadow.
A shadow born from rejection.
Yes. For millennia, the Maraketh have been exporting their vulnerability into the desert, completely failing to realize they were effectively funding a massive, deeply traumatized rebel army just over the horizon.
I am looking at the lore breakdown here, and I'm genuinely stuck on a major contradiction regarding how the Faridun operate in the present timeline.
The stuff with Jamanra.
Yeah, exactly. So we know their ancient hero, Jamanra, has been resurrected by Countess Oriana as the risen king.
Right. A deliberate slap in the face to the all-female Maraketh leadership.
Honestly, looking at how the Maraketh act, aren't the Faridun completely justified in going to war? They were literally thrown away like trash.
Oh, their grievance is fundamentally justified. 100%.
But then, why on earth would Jamanra and the Faridun ally themselves with the seed of corruption? The beast is the ultimate assimilating force.
It's a deal with the devil.
Yeah. Doesn't utilizing corruption completely negate their fight for autonomy?
It seems contradictory until you examine the mechanics of how the seed of corruption actually operates on a psychological level. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the beast doesn't just offer raw, destructive power.
What does it do then?
It acts as a psychic pathogen.
Yeah.
One that specifically targets profound, unresolvable trauma.
Oh, wow. And the Faridun have tons of that.
Exactly. They have thousands of years of generational abandonment wired into their collective psyche.
Yeah.
The corruption exploits that void.
So it preys on their loneliness.
Yes. It offers to erase the pain of isolation by hollowing out their individual wills and replacing them with a singular, deafening hive mind.
So it's like a malicious code taking over an operating system by promising to fix a critical error.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
The host thinks they are getting an upgrade, but they are actually being entirely rewritten to serve a new master program.
Precisely. The tragedy is that their quest for basic recognition has devolved into parasitic subjugation.
Now, they aren't themselves anymore.
No, they are no longer fighting a liberation war. They are functioning as a biological delivery system for the beast. We see this manifested in how Jamanra treats his own people who resist the corruption. He doesn't respect their autonomy at all.
Right. The lore mentions Risu, right? A defector.
Yeah, Risu.
Risu confirms that any Faridun who refused to embrace the hive mind were dragged into underground mines and locked away.
By their own kin.
Yeah. You even fight the Dread Engineer in the game. She's a corrupted Faridun zealot wielding a flamethrower whose sole job is to guard the prisons holding her own people.
It's a total perversion of their original mission to protect the discarded.
Totally. Jamanra is also specifically hoarding the bodies of the honored Maraketh dead to feed to this growing seed of corruption.
Which is horrifying. The Faridun's decay is loud, kinetic, and intensely physical. They're literally mutating into monsters.
Yeah, you can see it happening.
But if we shift our focus back to the Maraketh, we see a society that is decaying just as fatally. But they're doing so quietly from the inside out.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The Maraketh's internal rot is purely structural.
How do you mean?
Well, if the Fariduns are crashing because of a psychic virus, the Maraketh are collapsing due to a massive architectural flaw.
No. Yeah.
They built a society so incredibly rigid, so devoid of seismic dampers, that any emotional pressure simply snaps the foundation.
Oh, absolutely. We see this exact architectural failure in the story of Shambran and Lailuma.
That story is so sad.
It really is. Shambran is a high-ranking Dakara, a warrior who suffers a blinding injury in combat. Instantly, her projected utility plummets, and she is demoted to a weapon master.
Just immediately cast aside.
Yeah. The psychological toll of living in a culture where your basic right to respect is entirely conditional on your physical output is devastating.
And the tragedy exponentially compounds with Lailuma, right? Her friend, or maybe lover.
Yet Lailuma.
Lailuma travels to Dashar. That's the massive city of spires where the Maraketh place their honor dead high above the earth.
Reaching toward the sun.
Right. But Lailuma doesn't go for a ritual. She goes there and deliberately throws herself off the heights, plummeting into the dunes.
The mechanics of that suicide are steeped in profound cultural terror.
Just the sand, right?
Exactly. The spires of Dashar are designed to elevate the worthy toward the sun, physically separating them from the taint of the desert floor.
So hitting the sand is bad.
It's the ultimate Maraketh taboo. The sand is the domain of the discarded, the forgotten, the beast itself. by leaping into the dunes, Lailuma is effectively embracing total spiritual annihilation.
She leaves a final letter, too. And when this evidence is brought back to Sakima Asala, her reaction is chilling.
Oh, her response is so cold.
Asala tells the player, "You're lucky there were no names on that letter, otherwise tradition would demand unhappy duties of me."
Basically a threat.
Yeah. She implies that if she knew Leiluma's identity, she would be legally obligated to punish or execute Shembrin simply for being associated with the shame of a suicide.
This raises an important question. How can a society survive when its people are so constrained? Shambrid is forced to secretly burn the letter.
He can't even grieve openly.
Exactly. She places a stone in hiding. She is completely denied the basic human mechanism of mourning. A society that criminalizes grief is fundamentally unsustainable because it removes the very release valves required to process trauma.
It's a pressure cooker with no valve.
Yes. Both factions in the Vastiri Desert are completely trapped. The Faridun are imprisoned by a psychic hive mind, and the Maraketh are imprisoned by their own suffocating laws.
Which means a catastrophic collision is mathematically inevitable.
It'd have to happen.
And this brings us to the climax of the narrative, taking place in the shadow of just the most absurd, terrifying piece of military engineering in the lore, the Dreadnought.
A dreadnought is unbelievable.
The Faridun have constructed this colossal war caravan to directly challenge the Ardura, but instead of using slave labor like the Maraketh, they've escalated the arms race by harnessing the local megafauna.
It is a brilliant adaptation of their scavenger origins.
Because they don't have the numbers.
Right. Lacking the population density of the Maraketh, the Faridun capture and utilize the massive reptilian beasts of the desert wastes.
Dinosaurs. They are using dinosaurs.
Basically, yeah. It provides them with an overwhelming kinetic advantage.
It's an incredible visual contrast. You have the Maraketh's gold and silk pulled by subjugated humans, facing off against a brutalist mountain of bone and steel pulled by actual dinosaurs.
And we can't forget what's on the front of it.
Yes. Strapped to the front hull of the Dreadnought, acting as a grotesque battering ram, is the beast.
It's no longer just a seed.
No, it has grown from a seed into a massive humanoid entity chained to the metal, feeding on the chaos.
Jamanra's strategy here is purely parasitic. He intends to ram the Dreadnought into the spires of Deshar to physically feed the honored Maraketh dead into the maw of the beast.
Just supercharging its corruption.
Exactly. And to prevent this, Sakima Asala and the player literally board the moving machine.
The pacing of this battle sequence is wild. Honestly, I had to read it twice to make sure I understood Jamanra's actions here.
It's a surprising pivot.
Very. When Asala and the player gain the upper hand, Jamanra doesn't fight to the death. He engages a release mechanism and literally severs the caravan in half.
Just split.
Yeah. He detaches the rear section, holding himself and his enemies, allowing Countess Oriana and the beast to safely escape on the front half.
Leaving his people behind.
Again, for a warrior calling himself the Risen King, this seems like an incomprehensible act of cowardice.
It makes perfect sense, though, when you factor in the overriding influence of the seed of corruption.
Oh, because of the hive mind?
Right. Jamanra's individual warrior ethos has been entirely subsumed by the beast's self-preservation instinct. In a hive mind architecture, the host body is entirely expendable as long as the core entity, the beast, survives.
It's just a math equation for the beast.
Exactly. The corruption calculates the combat odds, realizes defeat is imminent, and forces Jamanra to jettison himself to protect the primary asset. He abandons his own people in the desert all over again.
That leaves just the player, Asala, and Jamanra crashed in the dunes. The player fights Jamanra, brings him to his knees, and then Asala, recovering from being knocked unconscious, steps up and beheads him.
A decisive end.
Yeah. On a surface read, it just looks like a standard boss execution. But Kid and Cat Noodle's lore breakdown reveals a massive historical context that completely reframes this moment.
To understand the weight of that action, we have to examine the forensic history of Jamanra's original death thousands of years ago.
Wait, how did he die the first time?
Well, the ancient texts strongly imply that the Maraketh leadership of that era assassinated him using poison during a parley.
Oh, wow. And mechanically speaking, poison is the ultimate coward's tool.
Exactly.
It is indirect, entropic, and completely bypasses the physical meritocracy the Maraketh claim to hold so sacred.
By choosing to execute Jamanra via beheading in the aftermath of direct combat, Asala is effectively rewriting a corrupted variable in their shared history.
She refuses to use the dishonorable methods of her ancestors.
She administers a clean, kinetic warrior's death, restoring a baseline level of respect to a conflict defined by treachery.
But the execution is just the setup for the real shockwave. She stands over the body of the greatest enemy her people have ever known, and she decrees that Jamanra will not be left to rot in the sand.
Which is huge.
She declares that he will be taken to Deshar and placed among the highest spires, resting alongside the most venerated Sakimas of Maraketh history.
This is a breathtaking violation of thousands of years of legal precedent.
And she doesn't stop there. She turns to the surviving Faridun who just fought against her on the Dreadnought. She tells them that their combat prowess is undeniable, and she offers them full integration.
Just an open door.
Yeah. She invites the outcasts to join the Ardura and become Maraketh.
So what does this all mean on a macro level? Can one decree really erase all that history?
Throughout this entire conflict, the ancient character known as the Hooded One, who we later discover is the god Sin has been observing.
Right, Sin.
Sin operates on the assumption that conflict is an unavoidable cosmic law. He views the war between the Maraketh and the Faridun as an inevitable consequence of human nature. Which is such a convenient philosophy for a god.
Isn't it, though?
If tragedy is simply a mechanical certainty of the universe, then you are absolved of any responsibility to fix it.
Exactly. But Asala's actions completely dismantle Sin's hypothesis. She engages in what we might call shadow integration on a societal scale.
Bringing the discarded parts back in.
Right. In psychological terms, you cannot achieve wholeness by continuously amputating the parts of yourself that you find distasteful. A society cannot defeat an external threat if it spends half its energy fighting the ghosts of the people it discarded.
By extending that invitation, she effectively patches the architectural flaw in their culture.
She really does.
She looks at a 1,000-year-old algorithm that demands the expulsion of the weak, realizes the code is creating an infinite loop of violence, and she manually deletes it. She reincorporates the discarded data.
It proves that the cycles of hatred dominating the Vastiri Desert aren't laws of physics. They are simply deeply entrenched habits.
And habits can be broken.
Exactly. They can be broken by leadership that values synthesis over pure, unyielding strength. It is a profound evolution for a society that, just weeks prior, would have executed a blind weapon master for shedding a peer.
We started with a golden luxury caravan powered by human suffering, and a scavenger society so desperate for validation that they plugged themselves into a psychic pathogen.
A total mess on both sides.
Yeah, and the resolution isn't found in a magical artifact or a bigger weapon. The system is stabilized because one leader finally decided to just stop operating the machinery of generational trauma.
True wisdom isn't found in cataloging the endless history of who wronged whom. It is found in the mechanisms of empathy required to permanently halt the ledger.
It's an incredible shift. But it leaves me with one final, incredibly thorny question about the logistics on the ground.
What's that?
We know Asala made the offer, but what about the Faridun who decline?
A critical variable. The offer of peace does not guarantee its acceptance.
Right. If your entire cultural identity, stretching back centuries, is biologically tethered to the fact that you are the discarded, the forgotten.
Then peace is complicated.
If the structural integrity of your society relies on hating the Maraketh, who are you when that enemy suddenly opens the gates and welcomes you home?
It's a crisis of identity.
Exactly. How do you process your own identity without the gravitational pull of the war that defined you? If you walk away from the Ardura and back into the dunes, are you fighting for freedom, or are you just addicted to the isolation?
Navigating peace can be infinitely more terrifying than navigating war, because war provides a terrifyingly clear purpose.
And peace doesn't.
No. Peace demands that you construct your own.
Something for you to mull over the next time you find yourself entirely defined by the things you were fighting against. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the harsh mechanics of the Vastiri Desert. Keep questioning the systems operating around you. Always check the engine room under the Golden Caravan, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.